What is up, all you GBA type people? This is Tom. We're here with your Week 11 picking crew. With me, as always.
Hey guys, how's it going? And we've got some very interesting matches to talk about for this one. All of the matches here are all replays of Week 2, so rematches are always very interesting to discuss, and I think we've got some quite good points to cover for this one. So don't forget to stick around.
Yeah, just sit, watch the video.
So last week there's not a huge amount to talk about. Obviously the first thing to note is that the Nick versus Miguel game, we've ended up just pushing that because Miguel unfortunately had to take a forfeit for that one. Apart from that, there's not a huge amount of things to talk about. There was the surprising Steve versus George match where we all ended up losing points there, but that won't make a difference to us in the overall rankings of our scores because everyone ended up losing a point. The only one that was probably quite interesting was the Nips versus Mulvone match where we were quite split on it, with Mulvone pulling through on that one. So moving over to the overall scores to date, I'm currently pushed back towards the lead with 55 points. We have got Hank, Kelly and Burke, and also you, Tom, as well, at 54 points. Then we've got Baby Nick at 53 points, and then finally Blue still behind at 43 points.
One thing to note as well is, even though we did push the Miguel and Nick match, we will be counting your lock of the week, as a matter of fact, to ensure that at least that stays up to date, even though we did push it. So the way we're going to do it, if we push a match, we're not going to count it. However, whoever takes the loss and takes the win, that will count for the lock of the week. Unfortunately, just it won't actually pan out that it was a match that actually occurred. You know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying, and that's absolutely fine. So what we're going to do now is move over to Week 11 and have a chat about that, because we got some interesting ones to talk about. So first one we've got is Shady versus Crimson. Do you want to sort of lead off from there, Tom?
Shady versus Crimson. We're all pretty much picking Shady. I think we still have a sliver of hope in terms of Shady can maybe get a few more wins, and then I'm not really sure where Crimson's head at, so I think that's kind of the most watered down version of why we're picking Shady over Crimson this week.
I've not got a huge amount to add, really. I would say both of them are out of playoff contention as far as I'm aware, and I think Shady's got the better matchup, and he did end up winning that time, so that's kind of my basis behind there. There's not a huge amount of analysis behind that one, but everyone has gone for Shady on this one, so we'll just have to see.
Next up, we have John versus Fizz. Now, everyone except you are picking Fizz. I think Fizz has just been that good that we're all really confident in Fizz and just his capability as a competitor. You know, he's beaten Dan. He's beaten almost everyone that has really stood in his way. And he only has one loss. But, according to the comments section, he's not that good of a team. He's not convincing. He's not a winner. So, maybe this match will prove some people wrong. Let's see what happens. Curious, though, why are you picking John over Fizz?
Okay, so this one's really hard, but I still believe in John with this one. Looking at the matchup, I know it was unfortunate with Uniclus last time, but I think Uniclus has still got a huge amount of potential in this battle. And I think if John manages to play it right, which he has been with playing as Uniclus really well, I think he's going to be able to turn that to his advantage, and I think he's going to really be hankering for a win on this one. So I'm going for the underdog on this one. I don't normally go for the underdog, but I'm going to risk it for this one, I think.
Is it Will being a betting man this week? What a shocker.
I've changed.
It's not always a good thing, because Blue hasn't changed. Okay. We have one lock of the week on this game, with Blue saying that Fizz really wants it, like bad, and that speech last week said it all. Fizz is out for blood. Now, Kelly didn't make this his lock of the week, but I did also say the same thing, in agreement that Fizz's speech after last week's match was pretty impressive, so John has a lot in store for him. Next up, we have Tup vs. Lars. Now, we're all picking Lars for very obvious reasons. Essentially, Lars said it well last 2 weeks, has to win in order to stay ahead of Dan and Gio, because they are, for the most part, nipping at his heels. Anything really more to say to that?
Not a huge amount to say, really. I'd say, Tup is currently out of the playoffs race, so and I think the difference between him not being in the race and Lars still being in the race is going to make quite a bit of difference this one. And I think overall, I would say Lars has probably got a slightly better matchup. Lots of answers to any sort of very offensive Sang cores. And Tup may struggle a little bit with that defensive core. Lars also won last time, so that's kind of my reasoning behind picking Lars for this one.
The one thing I will say, though, that just kind of is impressive to me is that you see teams like Steve or Tup that aren't necessarily in the playoffs anymore, like the running, but they are still trying. Like, their team structure is still very impressive. The effort they're putting forth is very, substantial, and that is more impressive to me than the fact that some other coaches are just, like, laying down, like, oh, I'm not really going to try anymore. Whereas you see Tup and Steve, especially, are definitely still putting their best foot forward and showing that they are really, truly competitors and not competitors for the sake of being a playoff team.
Yeah, that is definitely a really good point.
We have 3 locks of the week, I think. Now, usually we only do 2, but Baby Nick was kind of a little late to the party, so he just kind of threw one on there. I'll let it slide. God damn it, Nick. We'll start off with his, as a matter of fact, because I'll talk about mine last. Lars is motivated to lock up a playoff spot this week, and has the capability and coverage in Lander's eye to really do a lot of damage to Tup's team. Can't help but agree with that, because that was kind of the same point for him versus Shady last week. Next up, we have Hank saying that Lars is going to want to hang on to his lead he currently has in his division. With Tup being eliminated from playoff contention, I can't see him having the same drive to win as Lars does. Yeah, that's a good point. And then I said, what I said earlier on, Lars needs to win this match because this is either what locks him up in terms of a playoff spot because, hello cat, because essentially Dan or Gio are going to lose, so essentially he's going to eliminate one of those 2 teams, which are essentially his competition. This video is now going to feature my cat. It's because he just chose to sit right here.
Links to his YouTube channel down in the description.
All right, Tom's cat. Okay, his name is Fish for anyone who's wondering. Anyway, talk about Dan versus Gio.
Okay, so moving on to Dan versus Gio, we have got a slight split on this one. We have got you, Tom, Kelly, Blue, me, and also Hank going for Dan for this one, and then Burke and Baby Nick going for the underdog on this one with Gio. Now, this is a really, really important match for the playoffs, and in my opinion, I think Dan is going to really, really want this one, and the way he's been team building overall, I think has been really, really impressive, and I think he's going to go to great lengths on this one to try and build a really solid team against Gio. He also did win last time, so that's a good indication as well, and yeah, that's my main sort of reasoning behind going for Dan with this one.
I can't see Dan losing 3 in a row. That's my main reason for picking Dan this week. Not only that, I have this very sneaking suspicion that even though Gio has Aromatisse, right, I can see how a lot of work can be done with Dan with his Salamence and with Sylveon. If Dan can effectively use Sylveon to kind of chip away at Aromatisse a little early on, right, and then allow Salamence later on in the match to, like, maybe get him a Dragon Dance, or just have the right coverage to essentially plow through what Gio has, I could see Salamence being very effective against the bulk that Gio has. That's just me. Now, this match, and we're going to lead into our kind of our chatter point. This match, according to both Burke and I, it's pretty much the talking point of this week. This is one of the biggest games of the season. This match essentially locks up the very last spot in terms of the playoffs in the Kanto Conference. So, because Gio and Dan, exact same record, exact same differential. So whoever wins this match is, pretty much in line to then go to the playoffs at the conclusion of next week. I just think, like I said, Dan has much better offensive options, and Burke also said for his chatter point is that this is just a pretty pivotal match because we haven't really seen a match that's been this huge thus far this season. We've seen some pretty important matches, but this is like the last playoff spot that's up for grabs in the Kanto Conference. Johto, a little bit different because we kind of have like 3 and 7 garbage teams going after the last spot, but this is like the prime time. This is your Sunday Night Football, if you will.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing that one. It should be a really interesting match.
The new background music for this video is purring. So
for the next one, we have got Nick versus Steve. Now, I think, Steve did have a really great win last week, but I think I'm viewing this now in terms of consistency. And Steve's shown that he has ways and he has the means to take out some of the bigger players, but so I think he's still got a chance, but I'm still just going to go with the most consistent coach out of the 2 for this one.
Yeah.
I think he's got a stronger overall draft. more consistent, as I said, and just better team building and playing as a sort of overall looking at the whole season, if that makes sense. So that's my main reason for going for Nick, and he's also my lock of the week for this week.
He's also Kelly's lock of the week, and that's pretty much what he has to say about that. Same reasoning. Nick's just a better coach, and he finally gets to play after having 2 weeks of quote unquote a break. But I do expect to see Steve put his best foot forward, as he's been doing very well for the past few weeks.
Yeah, I think he's definitely still got the chance to prove us wrong on this one.
Yeah.
We'll just have to see.
So next up, we have Gubbs versus Nips. And we're pretty much all picking Gubbs. I think Gubbs has the right mindset, even though he's hasn't really been shining a lot this season. But we have Blue, as always, picking the opposite, going with Nips over Gubbs.
So for this one, Gubbs and also Nips are both still in playoff contention, but I think Gubbs has to make up for some differential, and I think Nips has to win a game and then make up for a slightly bit more differential. So I think overall Gubbs has still got that slightly brighter shard of hope, if that makes sense, and I could definitely see him cling to it for this match and really, really try and get that chance and really, really go for it. So overall, that's my kind of thoughts on this. And where Gubbs has a better attitude. I think his team overall works a little bit better in his favour against Nips. Yeah, it should be a really interesting battle to see.
Yeah, not only that, but this could have been a different headline if Nips had actually won his match last week against Cincinnati, and in not doing so, this essentially turns into Gubbs' match to lose rather than Nips' match to win in order to sustain playoff positioning. Let's see. We also have a lock of the week on this match. Burke is saying that I'm really pulling for Gubbs here. He's on a winning streak, and he needs to keep this up to pull ahead and make the playoffs. Nips has been rather unimpressive these past 2 weeks, and Gubbs is definitely going to want revenge from last time, because the last time he faced Nips didn't really quite go in his favor. So this week, I think he's going to really attempt to kind of change that ship. And like he said, needs a win. Next up, we have Malvone versus Hayden. Very straightforward here. We have a playoff contending team in the Loud Reds, and then we have Hayden, who is kind of just in the fuck it mode right now.
Yeah, definitely. I think for this match, I've got Malvone down for this one. I know Hayden did win the last one, but I think Malvone is definitely going to have much more drive with this one. And as this one's got very important playoff implications for Malvone, and he can't really afford to lose this one. So I think he's going to really step forward and really push it. He's played Hayden once. He knows how a lot of Hayden's team works, and hopefully he's going to find a few ways to work around it.
That, I think he just has the better team and the better mindset. Going back to mindsets, that's very important. So last up, we have Miguel versus George in the San Francisco 49ers against the Real Morel. Now, this is probably the second most important match this week. So this is like Monday Night Football. So, I would say so because you have these two teams, the last two teams, to like really decide a conference in terms of who's going to be the number one seed. Because we're going to have Nick locking up his division. Fizz has already locked up his division. Unless Lars catastrophically collapses, he's locked up that division. And then we look at the Silver Division, the Johto Conference, and you have the Real Morel and the San Francisco 49ers, both at 7-3, with just 5 differential points separating the two. So this match could be the breaking point. Does Miguel win and essentially lock up the playoff spot for him and the division, so to say, or does George win and kind of disrupt that so that it forces week 16, forces week 12 to be the deciding factor for this division?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this game. This one should be really, really good, because I think last time Miguel kind of underestimated George, but he's definitely not going to be this week. But on the other hand, though, George is really going to be hungry for a win. After losing 2 times in a row, he's not going to want a win streak to continue. And it's going to be a big battle of the Titans, this one. And I'm looking forward to it.
Not only that, but we've seen George make some semi-questionable plays, kind of not been in the right mindset the past 2 weeks, making some very off plays at the Leaf Storm versus the Heatran last week, losing to Steve. But then we also have Miguel, who... Now, for anyone who watched his video explaining why he didn't upload, his grandmother, that was unfortunate, and we, from our perspective, the analysts, we appreciate him putting up that video explaining why the match wasn't played. But also, it was the other point that he made. What if Mons just really isn't his interest right now? Like, what if he's not committed? What if that Miguel shows up to this match and the whole, like, George being motivated shows up? There's variables in this match that can really determine how the coaches play and who, in fact, wins.
Yeah, it's definitely going to come down to the day, I think, with this one. It's going to be really, really good to see. But, yeah, it's going to, as I say, coming mainly down to mindsets and more than anything else. Both of them very hungry for the win, and yeah, should be an absolutely fantastic match.
Yeah, so with that being said, that will be your Pick and Crew show. So leave us your picks down in the comments. As always, we check them out and see exactly how you guys are doing. One more week after this, so after this week, keep all of your picks down in the bottom, and we will just kind of look at how everyone did as compared to us. I'm sure a lot of you did better than some of us, especially Blue. I never said that. As always, enjoy the matches on Sunday. I know that we will. Hopefully all 16 get uploaded. And until then, have a great day.
See you guys next week.